Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host, Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the new Bataleon Astro full wrap binding. That's right, Bataleon's got bindings and they're not switchback. So let's dive right into this. I rode this binding at Copper Mountain on an overcast day. There was a little bit of wind, warmer temps, you had chop, chunder, perfect quarter ice, kind of just your typical mid-season conditions, and I rode it on my Rome Party Mod snowboard with my K2 Thraxis boots. Alright, so let's dive into the adjustability of this binding. You have flip tabs on the toe and the heel to lengthen or shorten the straps. You have a forward lean adjustment on the back of the high back. The toe straps are on a push pin system, so there is multiple placements just so you can center the toe strap better on your boot. With the high back, you also have multiple points of articulation so that you can align it with your heel edge. And then the heel cup is fully adjustable. 4 screws, you unscrew it, slide it back forward just to help center your boot on there. And finally, the toe ramp is slightly adjustable. You can move it a little bit forward or a little more back. Basic stuff from a binding that's a little basic. So let's talk about the straps on this binding. Let me tell you how much I love these. These are absolutely amazing. It is Bataleon's take on Oxtec, and they are a little bit thicker than others on the market, but they contour very well to the boot. The toe strap can fit a magnitude of shapes. Just that webbing wants to give out over the toe, so that way it'll go over a pointy, a snub nose boot. It'll just fit them. The heel strap, yes, it's thicker, but it cradles right through that instep. All the padding that you really want comes from the boot, but all the power that you're gonna get comes from that actual strap. It locks you in, it feels very secure. At the end of the day, this is a really good take on Oxtec with this binding. All right, so when it comes to the ratchets, they're a little bit wider, so it's very easy to actually feed that ladder in, and they climb well. That one finger quick release does what you need it to do. The one thing that I will say, as these were samples, I did have the ratchet stick twice on me. They just needed to break in, so right out of the box, they were just staying open with it fully unable to just recoil back. But after they broke in as the day went on, I didn't have any issues with them. Like I said, they are a little bit of a wider ratchet. The handles also are a little bit wider. It's easier to get a thumb underneath it. They do their job. They do their job well. So the first thing you're going to notice with the high back is there's no padding in this at all. It's just solid plastic with a little bit of rubber grip at the bottom just to help grab your boot as you push back into it. It does have a true zero lean on it, which means that there's no natural forward lean in it. It is a little bit softer on the outside, but it's also super wide. The forward lean adjustment, very easy to use. Flip it down, slide it down, lock it back in, boom, there you go. You've got your forward lean on there. It's nothing mind-blowing at all. It does what you need it to do, but it's still very basic at the end of the day. The flex of this binding can best be summed up as your standard run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road. You get a little more lateral power because it does have a full wrap heel cup on there, but overall, it's nothing mind-blowing. It's not an overly stiff binding. It's not an overly soft binding. The straps do their job. They're not mush, so when you push into them, you actually get power. You can feel that high back. It's got a little bit of give to it, but it's not a soft flexing, just does nothing. Like I said, middle of the road, little bit of lateral power on it just from the full wrap. Kind of just a predictable do everything binding. So the ride feel of this binding is very damp, and you can see that in this footbed. There's a lot of foam in there. You actually have excess foam on top of it to help dampen it. If you're one of those guys that your board binding combo, you can feel everything underfoot and it fatigues your foot, you should be looking at this binding because it's gonna help kill off any vibrations overall. It does have 2 degrees of canting on it, so if you're not a fan of canting, be aware of that as well. But I will say this does such a good job of being a damp, smooth riding binding. Who's this binding for? The all-mountain freestyle rider that wants a little bit of power behind them. Just someone that wants a little more oomph from their binding. So the big thing to note is that under the Nidecker umbrella of companies, Rome and Bataleon are owned by them, and Bataleon is now sharing the chassis of this binding with Bataleon. So this is essentially just a Rome full wrap binding. You know, your DOD, your cleaver, but now it's got some differences to it, mainly in the straps, the footbed pad, and the high back, and that is enough to actually change the ride. I love the straps on these. I think that they're actually better than the Roam straps, and I own 3 pairs of Black Labels, their highest end ASIM wrap binding. But the high back, it leaves a little more to be desired. There just isn't padding. You'll really feel it when you drive back into a hard heel side turn, but other than that, it's just sort of there. The foot pad, though, does an exceptional job of dampening. If you're one of those guys that really wants to just deaden board feel underfoot because you've got foot and ankle and knee problems, this is a binding to be looking at. That pad is super thick. It just does an immense job of dissipating that kinetic energy as it comes up into your foot. Overall, this is actually a really good binding. I'm happy that they're sharing technology with Roam, but that they changed just enough that these will ride different. If you're a Roam guy, but you can't find them because they're sold out, you should probably just check out some of these Bataleon ones as well. Comparable bindings, the Roam DOD, the Ride C8, the Now Select Pro. This has been my review of the Bataleon Astro Full Wrap. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you own a pair? Are you going to buy a pair? Leave me a comment down below. Let's have a conversation about this binding. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we got coming out for all you snowboarders of the internet. And if you really like what we're doing over here and you want to support us further, swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and I'll see you in another video.